you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the earliest things that makes official. Welcome to 16 years and 24 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. And we're just getting ready to click over to 17 years here at the end of this month. And boy, are we old. And we're so old, you need to refer your family, friends, and relatives. Tell them to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Today we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about her works, what she does, and how you can utilize her knowledge, experience to improve the quality of your life. Because that's what we do on this show. We never have guests on that tell you how to destroy your life. I suppose if you did the opposite of everything, authors say when they come on the show, you might do that because they're here to make your life better. But, it's where's the fun in that, really? Make your life better. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Amara Samata is on the show with us today. She is a transformational consultant, communication strategist, and relationship mediator with over 10,000 plus hours of facilitation and 2,000 groundbreaking sessions across 35 countries. She founded the Inner Guidance Institute and created the Inner Guidance Method, an accelerated framework for resolving inner conflict and restoring clarity, courage, and aligned action. Her signature tools, Inner Mirror, Golden Request, and ATLR, all trademarked, equip individuals and leaders to rebuild trust and navigate communication and foster mutual respect. Rooted in Dzogchen, I think I got that right, mentorship, and a decade of consulting, she trains wellness professionals globally to deliver rapid change. Welcome to the show, Amara. How are you?
I am. Thank you.
So give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me at amarasamata.com. That's me.
All right. And so give us a 30,000 overview of what you do there at the Institute.
Yeah, so I have a training program that I teach people how to do what I do. So there's a certification program there. There's also group coaching every month that I have a small group that I take in, and we do some very deep transformational work for your life. And then, of course, private consulting as well.
So you do one-on-one and group?
Yes.
So tell us about yourself and what got you into this field.
Well, it's kind of like, how far do you want to go back?
Let's go all the way. What shaped you
all the way?
Childhood? All the way. We want to know the journey.
The journey, exactly.
Yeah.
We all have those moments in life where something sort of shakes us and makes us look at life a little bit differently, right? So I had an NDE as a child, near-death experience, it's called. I slipped into the deep end of a swimming pool when I was about 5 years old. And what happened in that space was this kind of peeking beyond the veil, as you could say, or there was an understanding there was more to life than just what we see in life. And so coming out of that pool, it really set me off on a direction of staying true to my questioning nature. I was very curious, what's really going on here? What's life all about? So that, I think, was really something that drove me to really find the deep truth. I went on a journey to know myself. I went into the performing arts. From there, I went into the healing arts. I was an actress in my old life. Yes. In Hollywood, Los Angeles. I went to NYU and I was doing film and television. And then if anybody's out there and they find themselves in a job they don't want to be doing. One day I was actually working on a movie and I realized I don't like acting. I don't like the product that I'm creating. I would never watch this stuff. What am I doing? Yeah. And I decided on that day that I was going to follow the path, of a life that I love. I was going to do things that I really, really love. I went into acting to overcome being shy as a child, basically, and it just kind of stuck, sort of worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try on different hats, right, throughout our lives and see what fits. And, I've gone through that same sort of thing. It sounds like maybe you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you kind of enjoyed that and you thought, well, this seems like it's a good fit. And then, you had that moment of epiphany or clarity where you go, I'm not really sure I like this. Which
then we can change.
Yeah, and then you go find maybe a new adventure to go on and you try on some more hats, and it's kind of what life's about. I mean, I've tried on hats just because I get bored doing the same thing. 10 years into something, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And
exactly,
it's a healthy sort of move, I think.
Yeah, there comes a time where you've outgrown yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And there's something else to do. So I decided to do the one thing that I knew that I loved at the time, which was yoga. So I went into yoga and I was doing a lot of yoga teaching and meditation. And then I got into more kind of spiritual studies and whatnot. And it really kind of, I followed my dream of being starting a family and being a mother and all of that. And then when my life had that breakdown, which is often where we have those breakthroughs, that's where everything really accelerated. And I just moved to Singapore from the US, and my marriage was breaking down. My identity was breaking down. Everything. I was away from friends and family. I was really, really kind of alone and sort of at rock bottom. And that's another big decision that I made to follow, to find out, to really seek and find what is it that is causing this suffering in myself. I'm going to crack the code on this no matter what. I want out of this. I'm done. Let's go. And that was a big turning point for me.
And so sometimes, we reach these moments of change when we kind of hit rock bottom in a cathartic moment. Does that sound like that's what happened to you? There was kind of, everything was kind of failing, and or several of your key components were failing, and you just finally reached that point where you're like, I'm gonna fix it and not deal with this anymore, or I'm gonna improve the quality of my life or improve what I'm doing to get better results, maybe.
Yeah, we keep trying to, I kept trying to find myself and discover what was right for me. And this was just another one of those moments but something was different about this one, because I felt like sort of I had tried myself, my ego, my me, whatever that is, had tried to do its best. And I'd kind of, this is as far as I can take it. I don't know what else to do from here. So I knew there was a kind of deeper surrendering of everything I thought I knew. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had to find it. And so that's when I called in my teachers.
Now you mentioned something about surrendering. Is that a factor in some of the training that you teach? I know that there are times when I was going through cathartic moments and failing, and it just seemed like there was no bottom. I wasn't giving up. I was trying to hold on to the old stuff when really I needed to let go and embrace new. Is that the principle?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a side of self that is, that's limited in its ability to grow beyond itself. If you're holding on to the old self, your old understanding, and then you try to take that into your new paradigm, it's not going to work, right? There's got to be new realizations to come that really kind of grow you up out of who you thought you were, or how you thought life was. And so it's that kind of chrysalis moment where you have to, you're changing. And to go through that journey, I had my teachers with me, and I ended up asking the universe to just send me what is it that I need to know? How do I need to move through this? What is this all about? And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you're speaking about Tibetan Tantra." And I said, "Great, where do I get this Tibetan Tantra? Where is it? What is it?"
This is a drink I can order and mix with my coffee.
Right. And she said, "Oh, no, it's very hard to find. You can't get it. It's very secret,
No,
but she said, but there is one lineage called Dzogchen, and this is the fast track, and they will take people according to their experience. So I was doing a lot of meditating at the time. And so a Dzogchen teacher came to town, a lama. She was a female lama in this lineage. And I sat with her, and I had a very what at the time felt like a very big experience. In that meditation, I told her what happened, and she said, "Oh goodness, you should study with me." And so I ended up taking her in and being her sponsor, and she became my mentor for 2 years.
Wow. And so you were able to learn from her. One thing I want to fall back to just a bit, if you don't mind, is you talked about, basically, I think what you were talking about was going through that cathartic moment with your identity. And we have to shed that identity because, and so much of that is the identity. And that's kind of why it feels like I think kind of sometimes like, at least for me, a death, because you feel like you're losing you, but you're not losing you. You're losing this identity, this fake mask that you built or this mask that you built that you wear, and you're still you. And I think that was one of the most important things I went through in my cathartic moments, was realizing that I still had me, and I had been the guy, the dude, that's how I think about it. But I had been that person that had always been that survivor, had been that builder, had always done those things. And because of it, I was always able to rebuild. I just had to do something different, create a new identity, or a focus of career. But I still had that skill that put me into that identity, and I could create other identities if I lost them, or I lost careers, or whatever my identity was to a certain point. Maybe a relationship, or people do that with marriages. Marriage is an identity. Yes. And so going through those cathartic moments, I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, it absolutely feels like a death. And this is one of the teachings, is that there's one of the really deep, bigger teachings is you can look at it like there's nothing that's not you. So you are always being and becoming more of you. They call it water into water. You step out of yourself and into yourself, not out of yourself into some void where there's nothing left, right? You are there. We could equally say if you want to go the other side, there's nothing. There is no you, and there's nothing that's you. But once you start cherry picking, this is me and this is not me, then there's some costs and benefits to that you have to look at. So by using these very deep principles, you learn to not be afraid, essentially, of that surrender out of who you thought you were into who you are becoming. So from being to becoming, you're able to take that journey through what absolutely feels like a death. And when you go into what's even called an awakening or a spiritual awakening, you will go through this threshold of absolute terror of what feels like an annihilation. But it's really on the other side, you look back almost laughing that you saw it that way, because that was just the old fear coming up from what it didn't understand. On the other side, you have new understanding.
New understanding. You've got to move through it. And it's a process. It's just, you can't just click your fingers and suddenly you're in the new place, and you don't have to go through the grief of I lost the old identity. And I think that's the other thing too, is since it's an identity, there's kind of the stages of grief you have to go through, don't you? It's a process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when I'm doing rapid transformational work with people, we do go through the grieving process. You can't skip over it. So you have to go through and this is a classic moment when people hit those very deep paradigm shifts inside, as we say, or they realize something radically different than they had that they were holding on to before. Is they'll begin to laugh and sometimes cry at the same time, because they're so happy for what they're realizing, and they're so sad that they wasted so much time, so to speak, sort of hanging on to something. So that's natural, yes, to grieve.
Do you think it's, I played this game in 2008 when the housing crisis took all my companies, and my number one company was a mortgage company. So of all the things to have as your key treasure is the one that gets destroyed. I mean, everybody's getting wiped, and so I remember playing the Faustian. I don't know if Faustian bargain's the right analogy, but I remember playing the Faustian bargain with myself. Okay, I can live with one BMW instead of two. I can live with. As long as I keep the gold watches, I can live with it. Okay, the piano's gone. As long as I can live without the piano, and I'll get it back. And it just was this decline that I would just not let go. And I was just fighting to save everything. And it just made the descent and probably the recovery just even more extended, more awful, more cathartic, more just destructive because I hadn't even begun grief yet. I was still bargaining with myself, and instead of just realizing that I was pretty much going to lose everything that I'd built. I kept all my personal stuff, but my companies were gone, and it was you couldn't do anything back then because the economy came to pretty much almost complete halt, and. But yeah, the bargaining that I did with myself, and then to constantly it was just having my identity constantly stripped away, where it was just, this, that, the other, and it felt like you're being nitpicked to death. When really I should just have accepted, hey, this is what's going to happen, and we don't know where the bottom is, and we might as well just skip to the part where we start recovery and quit fighting. There's a point where you just got to get off the ship. The Titanic's 50 feet underwater, and I'm going, I can still raise it, and
yeah. And in those moments, really, if we can stop and say, in that surrender, in a real deep surrender, or letting go in order to let something new in, there's this sentiment of, I can't take this anymore. I can't do this anymore. When you get really honest with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of great change takes place, really rapid change. When you realize, I can't be this person anymore. I can't hang on in this way anymore. I can't tell this story to myself anymore. I've got to find another way. And it doesn't involve whatever, operating that way was. I'm going to have to find a new way of doing things. Yeah. And you can leverage what you have. I mean, you had the ability to build something. That's great. Mm-hmm. Now you can aim that at building something more resourceful, more sustainable from the inside and out.
And getting down that pathway, starting the grief process, and then starting to whatever, I've learned now with cathartic moments that I need to stop. I need to look around. I need to be grateful for what I have. And gratefulness is kind of a base restarting point that helps me, get back on track. And, a friend of mine was talking about how he's really depressed. He's being hit by a few punches in his personal life. And he kind of feels like a punching bag right now, and he's kind of depressed over it. And I said, man, the best thing to do is sit down and look at, you got 2 or 3 things that are coming at you pretty hard, but they're likely temporary. And just take some stock of what you got good going on in your life. Because, 9 times out of 10, we have great stuff going on in life. I joke all the time on the show about how I used to get depressed and I'd just go watch Cops, the TV show, for 2 hours. And then at the end of 2 hours, I'd be like, I have a great life. I don't have the cops searching for me. I don't have warrants out for my arrest. I'm not getting pulled over all the time for drunk driving. I'm not doing too bad. I'm not in jail all the time for domestic violence. And, that guy who decides to fight the cops,
right.
I actually got some good stuff going on.
I'm good. And you're touching on a key point that gratitude really is this very profound, tool that we can use to build ourselves, to bring ourselves back up. Because gratitude, what it does is it builds trust really fast. Because if you're grateful, with yourself, what you're talking about is you're building trust in yourself that I can recognize what's going in my life. I can see it as valuable. And therefore I can now, live from that recognition and to build something else. When you're grateful with another person, thankful for them, you're showing I have the ability to see how you act and behave, deem that as valuable, and then give that feedback back to you. So those are high level trust building skills, and we need trust in order to move to that next level.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us about some of the work that you do at the Institute. And I think I might have cut you off in your story. You had started to work with, I believe, a mentor or someone, and I kind of pulled you away from that. So if you want to return to that, you're certainly welcome to.
Yeah, so I this Tibetan Lama lived with me, and she taught me every day. And I was in my no matter what phase. I'm going to break through.
no matter what. Damn it. It's gonna happen.
Whatever it takes. I'm all in. And just like, what you were touching on there in your story is, they say the root cause of all suffering is ignorance. That's what they say in Tibetan, or in Buddhist principles. And if you look at the word even ignorance, it means to ignore. So to ignore those signs that you're getting, those, like you said, there's messages saying, oh, maybe I should just skip ahead. Maybe I should let this go. We need to not ignore those signs. So it was like a fast track training in how to meet myself, to know myself, and, paradoxes to let go of yourself. And in this work, there was a tipping point that hit that really shifted my entire relationship to life, to myself, to others, to my whole perspective. That was a big day. But from that day, people began to come to me and said, can I see you? Can I work with you? And so at the same time, I was studying some energy work, energy practices, and I really ended up putting together this inquiry practice that we do in meditation with more somatic practices, if you want, and building this. I became obsessed with what's the fastest way that we can get from lie to truth. That's really the journey in life, right? That's the hero's journey. Like, how do I stop lying to myself? And as you said, take off the mask and see what's really true. And people just kept coming to see me. It was kind of, you need to go see Amara. And then over some years, it became a method, the inner guidance method, which is a way to really fast track people. I walk them step by step. All they have to do is be honest with themselves. And then I step them into realization about different parts of themselves, how they're operating against each other, resolve that inner conflict so they can start to work for you and with you, and even beyond where that takes you. And that's where I started working with a lot of people. I was able to work with, then came in, the CEOs and the founders and that whole world. And then they asked me, can you work with me and my wife? And so I started doing relationship work, and it just has never stopped since then. I coach families as well. And then, of course, people said, how are you doing this? Can you teach me how to do this? And the answer was, okay, let me find out. So I launched my training program. I did a new beta training last year with psychologists and psychiatrists that are studying with me. And they want to know, how are you getting results so fast? And so they're learning it. And I'm very excited to launch that again. And we're going to do that at least once a year, and have people who are really interested in supporting other people on their transformative journey to learn these skills, how to hold the space. Yeah.
That should be awesome. And so a lot of people that say, I'm listening out in the audience there. What are some of the things that you can help me with? What are some of the things that you tend to help? A lot of people come to you and go, hey, I need help with this. What are some of those aspects that and tools that you provide that, if I'm going through a certain thing or certain things, how do you, what sort of things do you offer?
So I give them permission really to return back to themselves and to make it safe to do that, to look at yourself, to be honest with yourself about how your way of perceiving the world and things that you're doing are helping you and hurting you, and how you can make better decisions. So it's a way of bringing someone sort of out of the narrative that they have and, putting that on pause, looking at what's really more possible for them, not just as a good idea, but as a real felt experience. And once there's a certain realization that's been had, you can't behave in the same way. You can't unsee it, right? And so that's what I'm looking for, is to get to that moment where you realize I can't continue in the same way. Yeah. It's become too costly. I must change my behavior, even if it's scary, even if it breaks my narrative, even if it, I have to admit some things that are hard to admit. So we go into some confessions, and I have the 8 core confessions. I can guide people in the audience just through a few confessions, and they can feel what it feels like just to answer a few, sometimes just one real honest statement with yourself can be a game changer in your day.
Being honest with yourself. Who thought it? Who would have thunk it? Yeah. And sometimes our identities, I think, you know more about this than I do, but I think sometimes our identities lie to us. They sometimes deceive us. Sometimes they can be self-deluding, maybe, about who I am and what I believe. And sometimes those things run themselves out, who I am or what I believe eventually finally comes out where everyone figures out I'm full of shit. And then eventually I have to realize that I guess I'm full of shit, and sometimes it's hypocrisy that exposes that. Yes. People go, hey, you don't walk the talk, you talk, and walk, you walk, and yada, yada, yada. And, then there comes a time where you have to go, well, what do I stand for? What am I about? Or what is this thing? I think maybe a good example of that is in marriages and divorces and relationships, where sometimes the way we think is a healthy way or a good way to be a partner, and we get rejected by that person who says, I've had enough of you and what your ilk is about. And then we have to kind of crawl into ourselves and go, is it me? And many times, it takes two to tango, as we say from my generation. As they say in this generation, he's a narcissist. Fuck off. The script is so overrun at this point. It's not even funny. And, but is it me, and what do I need to do? And you teach people to reflect on that. And do you teach a lot of these concepts that come from, I believe, Buddhism and stuff?
Yeah. So there's a strong aspect of Buddhism, which is to know thyself. It's the same as you find in the Christian. My father was a preacher, so I came from.
Oh, really?
The religious side as well. So I'm looking for the core in the teachings, and it's really about knowing yourself. And I like to say the feedback never lies, but you can misinterpret it for a while. So you are often getting the signs, but you're blocking out the information. You're not really letting the signs in until finally your life is just not functioning in a way that it's just not, I always say, like, it's not math, like you're thinking this, but your life looks like this. So math, right? Like math. It's just not adding up. So let's break through the but. Let's end. So I stop the buts, immediately. We don't move forward until the but is gone. And it turns into, yes, I must. Yes, I will. I have to.
There we go. So it sounds like you have a pathway established that you help people walk down to help them pull their head out of their own ass. I mean, something probably more professional.
Exactly like that. And there are 4 keys to the success, and having those keys to understanding, these 4 kind of directions in life. And if you can get a hold of them, you can succeed at anything.
There you go.
So I teach people about those and how to have a better relationship to themselves. And then, in marriages are, they're strong mirrors. They will show you where things are working and things are not working, where you delude yourself, business partnerships, marriages, being a parent, all of that will be strongly mirrored back to you. All these things, the ways that you're fooling yourself. Well, if you're paying attention, you'll get to use that as a way to learn more about who you are and what you can be when you are enough, as we say, resourceful enough, which is what I'm looking at, establishing that baseline for people, that they understand they are resourceful enough to then go forth and bring themselves into whatever kind of growth or experience or journey they want. Are they good enough? I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're wonderful. Maybe they're terrible. But you can learn to be good enough or great enough or whatever enough you want to be if you are resourceful enough as a baseline.
And develop yourself. I mean, that's really, it's really what you're doing is you're saying, hey, it's time to work on ourselves. I mean, there's so many different ways that we're able to delude ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, maybe the feedback we get, it's just interesting to me how much trouble we get into. And sometimes our stories just change. I mean, sometimes we think this identity works for us in one format and it doesn't. I've done that sometimes with my management styles or leadership styles in my business where I've gone, I think me being an asshole isn't working anymore as the CEO and the boss, and I'm getting feedback from my employees that they don't like it either. So it's probably me. And I've switched identities. I've slowly changed and said, no, there has to be a better way to get better results. And, maybe this worked for a time when we were building a company, but now that we have a very successful company and lots of employees, maybe I need to do things or behave in a way that is more conducive to building them and the culture of the company and different things. So, being reflective in that way, I think really helps in knowing yourself.
And there's a way there's a way to fast track that. So when I am brought in to get the feedback in, coming and going for people, like prepare yourself. Now you're going to get honest feedback. And it always goes both ways. It's not just one person getting feedback. But there is a dialogue method that I created to fast track resolution. And this has helped teams. It's helped people to marriages to take that one thing they've been struggling with often for years. And we crack the code on that within a matter of minutes or hours. And that's the inner mirror method, which I'm bringing out. We're developing it right now for scale. And in the inner mirror method, it's a dialogue process. It has 3 levels, but you very quickly destroy the lie, that you've been hanging on to, which is, my lucky job that I get to help people with that.
Destroy the lie.
Destroy the lie and reveal the truth. And from there, it's going from this fear to courage and having the ability to take ownership of who you are, and then to really start to love that journey and to get aligned with, all the things you're talking about, and not have to. I like to fast track it, because why take 10 years to learn how to be a better leader when you can do it, in a couple of months.
So what else do we need to talk about that you do over there at the Institute to share with people?
Just if they want to, I've been a secret weapon for the last, 7 years behind the scenes. And this is the first time I'm really coming out and letting the public kind of come in and work with me. So if you want to go deep with me, you want to learn how to, communicate well, you want to with yourself and with other people, and to build those really empowering experiences, relationships, whatever your mission is. I do that in group work. So I invite 12 people every month, 2 different time zones, to come in with me and to do like a boot camp of this work. And then you have those tools to work with for life. And you can learn how to self-coach yourself and guide yourself. And then there's the implementation. So there's that. Of course, I still work with people individually. I love that work. I do work with a handful of people, also with couples as well. So I've helped couples start their relationships, re-amend their relationships, and exit their relationships. That's what above the line relating is, or Adler is above the line relating. So you learn the principles of above the line relating, and the goal is to be happy together or happy apart, mutually decided.
Yeah.
No other options.
Sounds like my first 10 marriages.
Okay, so maybe the 11th is the winner for you.
Yeah, or not.
Let's get it right, Chris. Let's get it right.
I don't need to get it.
So there's that. And then for the professionals who want to have transformational tools that fast track realization for their clients in their toolkit or as a standalone practice like I use it, I'm interested in training you. Yeah.
Well, folks, give us your .coms as we go out and final pitch out to everyone who how they can reach out to you, how they can see if they're fit, contact, and all that good stuff. And final pitch out as we go out.
Yeah, please, amarasamata.com. We're putting up new information every day, and there's ways you can click in and book your call with me, find out if you want to work with me, and sign up with me and apply. It's just that simple.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Thank you.
Fun.
Well, we try to be. We've done 1 or 2 of these shows, so we're working on it. They'll get funner as they go on, I think. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thanks for audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.